And even Nancy Pelosi said, we need to pass this bill to find out what's in it. I think even
Did she really say that?
She said, that's a direct quote. Even the people who proposed this and voted for it, and I think the vast majority of the people that voted for this in Congress don't know exactly. They have their talking points. They probably have a bullet page of 10 items that are in the bill, and some of them are good, and they don't have the slightest idea of all the other details that's in it. And as this starts coming out, as people start dissecting this bill, and as we start seeing these components, the American people are not going to be happy.
And one of the major things that if you get the nomination, then when you start actually facing off with Congressman Kagan, is that that will be one of your points. We have to repeal an awful lot of this thing. How can you repeal something that the president will veto the repeal action?
That's a good question. And we have to attack this problem on three fronts. First, we do want to repeal it and we want to replace it. The problem is exactly what you said. Even if we have a very good election in 2010, and even if, with the best ideal possible world, we win both the Senate and the House, the president can veto anything we pass. And then it takes 2/3 of each the Senate and the House to overrule the veto. There's no way that the election will produce a vast majority of Republicans with a 2/3 majority in this election. However, we have to look at this process at two cycles. We need to look at the 2010 election first, get as many people in there who are conservative in both the House and the Senate to get a majority, at least in one of those two, and hopefully in both. And then in 2012, which is only 2 years away, 3 years away, elect a new president. And if we elect a Republican president in 2012 and then have at least one or two of the houses in a majority status, we can repeal the bill and he can sign the bill. So in the next 2 years, it can't be most likely overturned without a veto. But in 4 years, or in the next 3 years, it can be done, because in the election in 2012 takes effect in 2013. So we can do that. So we have to do it in 2 stages. Okay. The next thing we have to do is we have to challenge it on the constitutionality of the law.
And that's going on now.
And that's going on now. There are multiple stages.
It'll
take a while. But that could be a very, very forceful way of doing it as well, because you don't need the votes in the Congress. And then the other way you can do it as well is to not fund the bill in Congress. Now, that's going to have to wait until the current election in 2010. Everything that is in a bill form has to be funded. So if you pass a bill that requires money, that money has to be appropriated. And there's an appropriations committee and there's an appropriation bill. So when that appropriations comes up in 2011, which is next year after the elections, if we can have a majority in the House of Representatives, we can refuse or we can vote down the appropriations, the funding of the health bill, or parts of.
That's right. All funding starts in the House, doesn't it?
Exactly. They're the first ones. So it's critical that we have a vast turnout in November, that we have a really good election cycle and elect as many conservatives in November to get this process started, and then to follow it up again in 2012 in the next elections. And I really believe if we do this for these 2 cycles, we can change the course of what's going on in Washington.
Okay, we got another caller here, so thanks for waiting. You're on the air.
Hi. Say, what is the Speaker's position on abortion?
Okay, we didn't get to that.
We didn't get that. I'm glad you asked that, because it's very important to me. I am a sanctity of life believer. I am pro-life. I believe in life beginning at conception and going through until natural death.
And you have my support.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, you're on the air. Good morning.
Okay, I have a question.
Real quick.
Could you tell us how much the deficit was when President Obama took office? I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Okay, the deficit. The national debt, I guess, or is it the deficit on an annual basis? Does anybody know?
Yeah, they do know. I don't have that number here in front of me. I know it was tripled since he's taken office.
And
so
President Bush had a significant deficit too, didn't he?
If you give me a little leeway in it, I'm going to say $489 billion as a rough estimate. So say $500 billion was roughly the deficit when he took office. And then in the 1 year that he's been in office, it's tripled to 1.5 trillion. So
we have to do something about that.
If you give me a little slack in the numbers, it's roughly that percentage. It's been tripled. Now, I'm not saying that everything the Republicans did and George Bush did in the past were good. They did some things that are not good that I didn't agree with, and one of them is the spending. So I agree on that front that was not good. But you don't make things right by doing another wrong. Two wrongs don't make a right. We need a cut.
That's got to be the last word. We're out
Cut
of time
spending and cut the deficit. And we can do that.
Dr. Mark Trager with us today, candidate for the Republican nomination for Congress. The primary is in September, and of course we want everybody to vote. Tomorrow we'll be talking with State Trooper Jenny Austin on WDOR and WDOR FM, Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin.